Chad, what's up, man? Good to see you. Glad to have you here in Maine. Is this your first time in Maine?
Yeah, Lord, yeah, man.
I think I remember you saying that.
I always thought if I ever go to Maine, it would be on the Appalachian Trail because you know the AT ends at Mount Katahdin,
Right.
ends or begins.
However you look at it.
However you look at it, whichever direction you're going. And never thought that I would make it here until then.
Yeah.
But I'm glad to be here, man.
Yeah.
This is it's a pretty raw, beautiful, brutal environment right now.
Yeah, it's a little dark out there. Everything's a little dead. We're just coming out of winter. So if you came out in 3 months, though, it would be breathtaking.
I'm sure.
It's unbelievable.
I'm sure, yeah.
Spring, fall, of course, is amazing.
I walked out this morning. Well, first of all, I went turkey hunting yesterday morning, and I had 2 young men come and turkey hunt with me, and I said, guys, I'm going to Maine later today. And of course, for them, that's a big deal,
right?
You know, because these people, the culture where I live, it's country people, man. They don't travel,
right?
So it's a big deal.
There.
And they're like, "You're going to Maine today? Like what? We're turkey hunting. Like you can do 2 things in one day."
Believe it or not.
I'm like, "Yeah, man. We're going turkey hunt this morning. I'm gonna pack my bags and I'm gonna go to Maine." I said, "What do y'all think about that?" And one of them said, "Well, it's a Yankee state." You know, like, why would you go there, you know? And the other one said, yeah, but it has the longest turkey season in the country, right? Because y'all season starts late.
Yep.
Because it stays cold so long.
It's too cold.
Yeah. And then it goes on into June. So I'm happy to be here, man. The run was awesome this morning. You know, the wind was, at first, I thought this wind is freaking miserable, dude. I hate the wind. I mean,
the wind is rough.
As a hunter, you hate the wind.
For sure.
You know, everything. A game, every species of game hates
the wind.
They're going to bed down. And for me, I'm the same way. And I walked out there and I thought, man, this freaking is miserable. And I thought, you know what? This is actually invigorating. You know, and I, just switched my mindset on it a little bit. And I went out this morning to achieve a result.
Mm-hmm.
I had set a standard this morning to go and run because I'm going to run every day if I can. Right?
Sure.
And so that was the standard. I had set a standard for myself this morning. I'm going to go run. The result was I was going to get a good cup of coffee out of the deal, right?
Yes.
So I ran 3 miles to the coffee shop. That was the result that I wanted to achieve. And I ran in the cold, invigorating wind.
It's a good way to look at it.
For 3 miles on some back roads. People are looking at me like I'm a freaking idiot, dude. All the way to the coffee shop. The coffee shop shut down.
I would have told you had we drink coffee. I would have told you that, but I had no idea. I didn't even know it was there.
Look, man. The point here is, I did not achieve the result that I wanted to achieve this morning. I didn't get that result that I wanted, right? And immediately, here's the thing. Immediately, when I get there to the coffee shop and it's shut down. Now, I'm a former SEAL. I mean, I'm a tough dude. I can be tough,
sure.
Right? But I'm still human. Immediately I get there, my result that I had set out to achieve was no longer attainable. Guess what? The weak human mind automatically, this voice comes, just call Ryan. Just call Ryan. Just tell him to ride down here. The freaking coffee shop's closed, man. Just tell him to come up here and pick you up, man. That way you can get back to the house in time to, actually go and get a good cup of coffee. If y'all haven't figured it out, I'm a coffee snob, dude.
I learned that yesterday because I'm like, I have coffee here. And you're like, well, how do you brew it?
Yeah, how do you make it?
I was like, okay, he's not interested in my coffee.
Oh, man. And so, immediately that's what popped into my head. I'm just being totally honest with you, man. And then I said, you know what? I live my life to a standard, not a result. You have to live your life to a standard, and let the results fall where they may. Everything that I do in life is because of the standards that I have set for myself. And obviously, yes, we all have a desired outcome. In ultra running, man, this happens to me all the time. And this is a valuable lesson for you guys if it's in, and it just, this, I didn't even know I was going to talk about this until this happened this morning, right?
Sure.
But this is a valuable lesson for you in business and fitness and in your family life, whatever it is. For me, it happens all the time in ultra running. When I go and run a 100-mile race, the result that I always want to achieve is victory. I always want to win. And people expect me to win, right? I was just doing a 100-miler this past fall, and I was expected to win. I had placed second at that race the year before, did very well. And this year, everyone was watching me, thinking I was going to win, and I was out front for about 60 plus miles, and just really just going hard, man. And at about 60, 65 miles, my stomach blew up.
Really?
And let me tell you, for any of you guys or you, Ryan, I know you're not. You don't enjoy running that much.
I don't enjoy running. I have never found the joy in running.
If you ever run a 100-mile race, that's something that could happen. Your stomach could blow up. All the blood, your body is pumping blood out to your legs and your muscles, and you're having to eat. You can't run a 100-miler without eating. So there's no blood in your stomach or your digestive system. And so your stomach can really have some issues there. Well, that happened, and I found myself, the pain is so significant that you're not going to buck it.
Really?
I don't care how freaking tough you are, you're just not going to do nothing with it. So I found myself laying on the side of the trail as a first place, as a front runner in the fetal position, because I had no other choice. I knew I had to lay there until my stomach calm back down.
Right.
What
is it? The blood starts then circulating where it needs to. Digestive
starts happening. Yeah.
Dang.
And so in that moment, I realized this result that I had set out to achieve, which was first place at this race, it was no longer achievable. It was, I went from, literally the front of the pack and just having to watch guys run by me while I'm laid out on the side of the trail, man. All right. So again, just like this morning, what do you think the immediate thing my brain says?
Yeah, quit. I'm done. It's over.
You can't achieve the result anymore. You're not going to win this thing. Why run another 40 freaking miles, man? It's the middle of the night. You've been awake for 20 plus hours. Why run another 40 miles?
Yeah.
Because I have set standards for my life. Standards like I will never quit. Standards like honor. Standards like integrity. So I choose to get up off the trail once my stomach calms down, even though I can't achieve victory anymore. I choose to hold that standard. I choose to not quit, and I choose to proceed with my mission and uphold the standards, right? And even along that journey, choosing to proceed is just the first step, because once you choose to proceed, dude, I'm out in the woods.
Yeah.
I'm on a trail. Nobody's around me. Well, we're in the mountains, right? So in the mountains, trails switch back up and down these mountains. Well, I know these trails. They're my home trails. And again, you have this voice pop in your head. Well, you're not running this thing. You're not being competitive anymore. Why don't you just cut this switchback, right? Why don't you just cut a switchback and just, lessen your suffering? Well, my standard is integrity, right? Integrity is what? Doing the right thing when no one is watching.
Right.
All right. Honor is the adherence to what is right. Honor is doing what is right. See, integrity is a little harder. It's a little harder to have integrity than it is to have honor. In a lot of ways, it's easy to do what's right when your buddies are watching.
Of course. I mean, that accountability is good and important.
Yeah.
But it also gives you an advantage to do the right thing, which is why accountability is so important. But what do you do when no one's watching?
That's integrity.
And nobody's going to call you out on that. Nobody's going to see you doing that.
That's right. And integrity is a standard. So I want to challenge all of you guys that are listening to this right off the bat that if you don't get anything else out of this conversation, identify the standards that you want to live your life by. Identify the standards that you want to run your business by. Identify the standards for your family, right? And do that by developing whatever. Develop a creed. I've developed a creed for my life. Develop a creed that has those standards that you want to live by, right? And I would challenge you to uphold those standards regardless of the result, right? So you should set a goal, but if that goal is no longer achievable and you have to proceed, you have to continue mission, even though the result has changed, focus on upholding those standards.
Well, part of the problem with focusing on the result is that it's a lot of it is something within your control, but there's a lot outside of your control. You know, like for example, take the small coffee shop ideal here is, okay, you can't control what that coffee shop, you can't control the fact that they're open or closed. No, I mean, maybe you can look ahead of time, you know, I mean, there's things that you can do, but still when you focus on the result, it's a lot of ways outside of your control. And I've seen a lot of guys will try to go do things and then they don't achieve the result that they want, or they have weird expectations about how it'll work or how quickly it is, or I can go run 100 miles without training and I don't need the food, or, you know, they'll do things that they have no idea what they're doing. And then they'll throw in the towel because they had a faulty expectation and they didn't set the standard like you're talking about. It's the missing of the objective that derails them, and they throw in the towel, they're done.
That's it, brother. And you see this even in elite athletes. You see this. Elite ultra runners, specifically these guys that are super fast. They're used to winning all the time. They're used to achieving the result they want. When the wheels fall off, they don't default to the standard. When the wheels fall off, you see some of the best athletes out there. Those are the guys that don't maintain the standard because they are so wrapped around the axle when it comes to the result. And you're exactly right. That result is a lot of times out of your control. You can prepare, and you should prepare. But in some cases, in my case, at the Georgia Jewel, the 100-miler I just told you about, in that case, it didn't matter how well I was prepared.
You knew what the risks were.
This was the 10th or however many of 100. I've done so many 100-milers before. I knew what was coming. But when that stomach thing happened, I mean, that was out of my control, man.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So I guess, so here's the thing I have, you talked about creed, and I've created a code of conduct and talked about it with my boys and of course guys on the podcast and stuff like that. But what I see a lot of people will do occasionally, or quite often actually, is they'll adopt these ideals or these codes that they want to live by, or this creed, and then it's just so monotonous. You know, like I hear, well, be honorable. It's like, there's no meat to that, you know, or have integrity. And so people just throw around these buzzwords. How do you keep it meaningful and significant to the point where it continues to drive your action?
That's a good point, man. I mean, for me, I think I keep it meaningful and significant, I guess in two ways. The first way is by applying it to even the small aspects of my life, right? So I'm a big, like, crazy about putting your freaking grocery cart back in the little corral at the grocery store, right? So applying things like honor and integrity to something as simple as that, or something as simple as dropping a piece of trash on the ground,
gum wrapper or whatever.
Right? So the difference between someone who is great and someone who's just doing a good job, it's just a little bit.
Right.
It's just these little tweaks, right? So I apply it in a real sense to all the little aspects of my life. And then also I think another way to keep it up front, to keep it in the forefront of your mind and to keep it fresh, is you have to train. You have to put yourself in environments where you have to, in a real way, utilize these principles of honor, integrity, that never quit mentality, all the leadership principles. You have to train, man. You have to train. This was a foundational principle in the SEAL teams: train like you fight.
Right.
Train like you fight, man. And I take that seriously now, even as a civilian. I train every single day. I train other people, and I take as an instructor, I take my training environments and my students. I take that very seriously, and we push. And the things that we do are real.
Right.
The training environments that we create now are real, man. There's nothing canned about it, right? We're not freaking frozen by liability like a lot of big companies. I don't have no money, man. I can take you out in an environment where it's going to crush you. I don't care. If you sue me, you ain't getting much, son. So we're not frozen by liability. We can do real stuff, dude.
Right.
And keep it in the forefront of your mind. You got to train like you fight. You got to keep that stuff fresh and apply it to the little things in life, right?
Right. No, that's a good point. I remember as a financial advisor, I'd have these people, they were prospects who would come into my office because they wanted me to review their plan or whatever. And they'd come in with these binders, these beautiful binders, and it would have the Monte Carlo analysis, which is basically just, stress testing your portfolio. And they'd have these plans that were laid out perfectly. And I always told these people, and I knew what it looked like. I'd said, look, this plan right here where you're getting 8% a year for the next 40 years is a great retirement plan if everything goes perfectly. But you haven't put this through a lawsuit, through an injury, through you losing your job or a medical condition, or just the fact that you're going to have to buy a bunch of new shit between now and the next 40 years. Like, you're not factoring for any of that. So if you think everything's going to go perfect for 40 years, just stay with what you have. But let's actually introduce some real world scenarios to this portfolio and see how it pans out. And oftentimes it just doesn't pan out. But that's the same thing in life. Everybody thinks, I'm going to be a badass. I'm going to fight. If I'm in a dangerous situation, I'm going to get myself and my family out of there. It's like, well, tell me what in your life makes you believe that that's actually going to happen. Oh, I don't know. Yeah, exactly. Because we think we're better than we are. All of us do. Until you get out on the trail.
Until you start working through the process, and that's why we train. You're exactly right, man. No,
I think the SEALs adopted it. Correct me if I'm wrong. Adopted the phrase or the motto. We don't rise to the level of our expectations. We fall to the level of our training.
Yeah, I've heard that before.
And that's so true. So true. Why did you get into the SEAL teams?
I've been asked that question so many times, brother. And I'm still processing a lot about myself. I've only been out of the team for 2 years.
Yeah.
I'm still processing a lot of why I did the things that I did and how the things that I did are even affecting me now as a man. It's an interesting journey for me. My podcast is like therapy for me.
Yeah.
I'm writing a book now. I'm learning things about myself. And, as I look back on why, from a practical standpoint, I barely graduated high school, bro. I didn't like freaking school. It wasn't because I was dumb. It was just because I thought it was just a silly thing. And so I remember going around on the last day of school and begging my teachers to change my grades so I could graduate. I graduated.
Did you convince some of them to change your grade?
Oh, they all did.
Why'd they do that?
I think that they saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. See, I didn't know that when I left high school, I didn't know that I was going to really ever achieve anything in life. I didn't have any goals. No one in my family had ever served in the military. I had never seen a service member in uniform.
Really?
Ever. As a senior in high school.
Dang.
Didn't even know what it looked like, man.
Right.
So I get out of high school, barely. I ain't going to college, bro. I'm just not going to do it. So what I do, what everybody else does in a small town in America, I go start working construction, which is an honorable trade.
No doubt.
But for me, it just wasn't hitting the spot. There was something missing in me. I don't know if it was adventure. I don't know if it was challenge. But it just wasn't hitting the spot. I wasn't happy. I wasn't fulfilled. And I only did this for about 6 months, maybe a little less than that. I had been working construction and farm jobs and stuff during high school, you know, but you know, I get out. So I'm sitting at my little, I was actually at that point working in a concrete factory, and I'm sitting at the computer one day on a break, and this little ad pops up that says, Navy SEALs, the hardest military training in the world. And this was like 2006. So they were recruiting heavily. The war was freaking rolling hard.
Yep.
They were losing guys, and you know, so that they had this advertising campaign going on. And I saw that, and something about that, it said like the hardest, you know, the hardest thing. And I didn't even know what SEALs were. I'm not kidding you, man. I had never read a SEAL book. I had never watched
movies.
No, dude.
It's always a movie that does it.
Dude. I hunted. I coon hunted. I was a coon hunter. That's what I did all through high school. I didn't even have a girlfriend until I turned 18. That's all I did was hunt, man. Hunt and work. And so something about that just caught my eye, man, and it stuck in the back of my mind, and I kept thinking it over. And I actually went to the recruiters shortly after that because I thought, all right, this looks like something that's going to get me out of this. I'm stuck here.
Right.
I'm stuck, man. If I stay here, I'm going to make $400 a week for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Forever. And so I go and see this Marine Corps recruiter. And I walk in there. I meet with this guy. And he's giving me the whole, you know, the whole thing, right? Because I had seen the SEAL thing, but I didn't know how to swim. I didn't know.
Really?
I didn't know how to swim.
Dang.
I had never ran. So I thought, man, that looks awesome, but let me just see about this Marine stuff, because I don't think they do as much swimming and all this, you know. I go talk to this guy, and he says, I said, so hey, bud, what do you do in the I probably said, what do you do in the military?
Right,
I didn't even know the difference between branches, you know. What do you do in the military? And he says, I'm logistics. And I said, what? Logistics? What is that? He said, I drive a truck. And I said, what? What are you talking about, man? I thought everybody in the military, which all Marines are, this is how ignorant I was. I thought you're a daggone truck driver, man. I don't want to be part of your organization. Like, I don't want to potentially
So you thought that's what all of them did?
Yeah, well, yeah, I was
awesome.
confused,
Yeah, you didn't know, right.
I was
How
like,
would you
I don't
know?
want to be part of an organization where I might get stuck being a truck
Driving
driver.
truck, yeah.
Now, guys, I'm not putting anybody down.
No, I don't.
This is how ignorant I was. I'm telling you this, right? Obviously, if you're driving a truck through downtown Iraq during wartime, that's bad
a big
business,
deal.
son.
That's a bad, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You're a tough cat. At that time, I didn't know that. So I thought, well, dang, you know, I might, if I go join this organization, I might not even get to, you know, shoot guns and, you know, kill people and do cool stuff.
Right.
And so then I went over and talked to them about the SEAL contract. And they start telling me about the Navy SEALs and how they're just these bad dudes, and they go to combat. And
you're like, I want to be that.
Yeah, I want to be that, right? Well, I said, all right, sign me up for that, right? Well, you had to take a physical standards test.
Of course.
To get a contract. This joker didn't know how to swim. Right?
Yeah.
And so I show up to take this physical standards test, 500-meter swim.
Did you know that swimming was going to be part of it?
I learned right then from the recruiter.
Oh,
but
right,
like,
okay.
I'm going to take this test like in a few days, right?
Oh, that quick?
Yeah.
So it's not like you can learn to swim and be a superstar in that amount of time. Got it.
You know, I go down to the pond behind the house and start, you know, practicing my dog paddle. I bring my wife down. She was then my girlfriend. I bring her down there with me, and you know, she swam in high school, so she's teaching me the basics of a basic stroke.
Right.
And so then I go take this test a few days later. Fail miserably, man, miserably. They have a SEAL motivator, and his name was Frank Cutler.
A SEAL motivator?
Yeah, so basically they're contracted, he's a retired SEAL.
Right.
That was contracted to administer this physical standards test
Got it.
in the Atlanta area to any student who wanted to get a SEAL contract.
Motivator is probably like not the right word for this individual.
Oh no, Frank.
That's an interesting choice of words.
Bro,
motivator.
Frank was harder than freaking woodpecker
sure
lips, son. I'm telling you. And so this guy, he's looking at me, and at this point, I will add also, I was weightlifting. I was about 220 pounds.
Oh wow, really?
Yeah, I mean,
so you had put on some weight.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
I
So
mean,
you were dense.
I was dense, dude. This guy's looking at me like, I failed to swim miserably. We go out there, I might do like 4 or 5 pull-ups, 20, 30 push-ups, few sit-ups, fail to run, even worse than I failed to swim, right? And he's thinking, what in the... But for some reason, again, there's been a select few people throughout the course of my life that have believed in me. And Frank was one of them. And Frank, my wife, my mom, and Frank believed in me. And that gave me the courage to keep coming back, right? Just keep coming.
What do you think he saw in you? Because let's be honest, he probably sees hundreds, if not thousands, of people that fail, and he's like, nah, you're not going to cut it.
He does.
So, but why you?
You know, as a team guy, you can look at other people, and once you've lived that life, really, and I'm not saying you're always going to be 100% accurate, but you know what it takes to do the job. And the physical attributes can be trained,
sure,
right?
But there's something here.
You got to know, you can look and spend some time with a man, and you'll have a really good idea whether he is going to cut the mustard or not. And I think Frank saw that in me, right? And I think from day one, Frank knew that I was going to become a SEAL.
Interesting.
And now I can look at other, I've seen, since I've been out, I've worked with and seen a very select few young men that when I see them, and I'll tell them, I'll be like, hey man, you realize you could go be a SEAL and do very well. So you see that in guys. And it's just from living a life, man.
Right.
And so I keep coming back to do this PST. Finally, after probably 3 months, get to where I can just barely pass it.
Yeah.
And I get my SEAL contract, right?
How did you, what about the, like the ASVAB and some of the...
Oh, I passed that with flying colors.
Oh, so you did fine, because you were talking about school, so I didn't know if that was an issue for you at all.
No, I mean, I talk really slow, guys. And
that's I was like, the accent. I'm like, what about
I
the...
look
the
like
ASVAB?
a bum.
Yeah, it's like the beard, the hair. No, I'm just kidding.
But yeah, I mean, all of my my writing and my arithmetic and my... I'm good with all that.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I'm a genius, but I'm fairly intelligent.
I was just wondering about with your like school. No, I'm not doing that. Barely passing, high school. So I'm like, well, maybe that's an issue too.
No, it was easy day, man.
Nice.
That was easy. So, yeah, man, I finally passed this thing, get a SEAL contract. Go and I'm speeding this story up. I know, guys. I'm giving you the long-winded version. I apologize. I get the SEAL. I get the boot camp.
Yeah.
Right. You gotta go through boot camp first. I make it all the way to the last day of boot camp, and we're going to graduation where you get your Navy ball cap. You change it from a recruit to a Navy, and so we're formation walking. My little drill instructor comes up. Hey man, you got to go to medical. I said, what the world, man?
It's last day.
Yeah, last day. And so he pulls me out of formation. I go up to medical, the dive medical officer, which is he's like the top dog for all naval special warfare. You got to get past him.
Right.
You got to pass this dive physical in order to proceed with training. They want to make sure that nothing's wrong with you.
Sure.
Because they're about to put you through a crucible that's literally going to take you nearly to the point of death.
Yeah.
Which is buds. And he says, man, I walk in here. He says, hey, man, you have a very rare, benign, asymptomatic pericardial cyst on your heart. It's a 7-centimeter cyst.
Wow.
He says, look, man, we don't know when you dive underwater or you go up to altitude and jump, that pressure change could potentially burst the cyst on your heart. He said, so it's never going to cause you a problem. It's totally asymptomatic. It's rare. We're not going to perform a surgery to take this thing off.
Yeah, there's no need to do it.
That's right.
Right.
Here's what I'm going to tell you. you're never going to be able to be a SEAL. You know, I'm sorry. You can go to the fleet, the regular Navy, and you know, have a great career. And I'm like, wow. And, you know, everything that I had worked for, I had literally left home. I had told everybody back home, all my redneck buddies, I'm going to be a SEAL. Of course, they all laughed me. They all laughed me out of town.
Because they knew who you were.
They knew who I was, man.
Right.
A prophet has no owner in his hometown, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So, yeah, he's they laughed me out of town. And I've sold I had a truck, man. I had this beautiful F-250 truck I had redone, and I gave it all to my brother. Left everything, man, in order to achieve this dream, and it was all taken from me. And just that in one sentence.
Yeah.
Right? So, that was an interesting twist in my story.
Yeah.
So I say, hey, man, I don't want to go to the fleet. That's not where I set my goals, right? That's not where I had set my goal. You know? There it is.
Power? I think we're all right.
Yeah.
Looks like the cameras are still recording. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, when the wind here, it hasn't been the snow or anything, but when that wind gets kicking up and Down's power line, it gets crazy.
Well, it's kicking today.
Yeah, so let's hope it stays.
Easy day, man.
All right,
we'll rock and roll.
Yeah, keep going.
Anyways, yeah, so I get out of the Navy with an administrative discharge. Basically, it was a breach of contract. This is the way I was able to get out. I go back home.
So you got out altogether. You're like, okay, I'm done. I'm not doing that.
I'm out.
Okay.
Yeah, nothing. Cut all ties with the Navy.
And so it's interesting. There's no issue with that, like because you were qualified to join the fleet. It seems like they'd say, no, you're going to stay and finish out your contract with us.
Well, it was because they had breached the contract that I had with them,
which was the SEAL contract. Got it. Okay,
that's right.
Got it.
And they created that SEAL contract in order to get more people to, you know, at least try.
To go through the program.
Yeah, to go through the program.
Or the track, I guess you'd say. Right, okay.
So, yeah, I come back home, back into that small town that I had just left, you know, whatever, 3-4 months earlier with my hat in my hand. Everybody, of course, is like, oh, he didn't make it.
I knew that was going to be the case.
I'm like, man, I actually have this cyst on my heart. They're like, yeah, right, dude. Nobody wants to freaking hear that, dude. Nobody quits buds. Everybody gets an injury.
Right.
I don't think I've ever met maybe 1 or 2 people that actually said, yeah, man, I just quit.
They're all medically disqualified.
Oh, man, all of them, dude.
I know, it's funny.
So, of course, that's what everybody's saying about me, and that's tough. I don't have anything. My dad loans me an old early 80s model Ford Ranger that literally...
Your brother's still driving your truck around.
My brother's driving my nice truck. I can't be an Indian giver, man. And so this thing leaks every freaking fluid. I put more oil in this thing than I put gasoline in it. And so that's what I have to work with. I show up, and I think I had $800 in my bank account is what, you know, because in boot camp they pay you, and you don't use any of it.
Yeah.
Had $800, come home. And but the interesting thing, and I don't know if this is ignorance or just being young or what it is, but I never gave up on that dream to become a SEAL. Like even though they told me no, I was like, no, I'm gonna find a way to do this.
Yeah,
I'm gonna find some way to get this freaking thing off my heart, and then at least re-engage the Navy and see if then they'll let me back in.
Right. Sure.
So I go around the Atlanta area. I have appointments, a few appointments with some of the leading heart surgeons in that area because it is a rare condition, and it's and these surgeons, dude, I'm a 19-year-old kid wanting to have an elective surgery to remove a cyst that is asymptomatic. They
problems. They don't want to do that.
They don't want to do it, man.
Yeah, of course.
And I finally find a guy that wants that will do it. Dr. Cooper. Dr. Cooper was in the Army. He was a reservist. He understood I wanted to go serve my country. So he lets me lay on the operating table. He cuts my chest open, removes the cyst from my heart, and Yeah.
Did you know that if you had that procedure done and everything was successful, did you know at that point whether or not the Navy would take you back into the SEAL track?
No, the most likely outcome was that they would not take me back in.
That's what I thought. But he said open heart surgery. We're not doing that.
Exactly, man.
Right.
So it was a total gamble for me to go and have this surgery, and but I did it anyways because again, I mean this I was all in, brother.
Yeah.
You know, there was really no other option for me on the table. And I took quitting off the table, right? I mean, even at that young age.
Yeah.
And so I re-engaged the Navy, and they say, you know, I of course I have official paperwork from my civilian surgeon, and re-engage the Navy, and they say, okay, well we'll let you back in the Navy, but we're not sure that we're going to let you go to SEAL training, but you can come back in. We're going to put you on hold until we review all of this information.
So when you say they put you on hold, did you go back through boot camp?
Nope. So because I made it to the last day, they didn't make me go back to boot camp. So I basically flew back out to Great Lakes. I was active duty again at that point as a NAVET, a Navy veteran, and they put me in an open bay barracks and just said,
"Hang out.
We'll hit you up when you can proceed." And I think that took probably, 3 months, 3-4 months. I mean, it felt like 3 or 4 years.
I bet.
You know, sitting in there just doing that. And they're finally like, the surgeon, when I came back in, I had gotten out, had the heart surgery, and came back in. And when I came back in, the same guy that had disqualified me was still...
Oh, he was still
the
there.
The DMO there.
Wow,
medical officer. So, I mean... I think that he really understood and appreciated what I had done.
And how bad you wanted it.
The gamble I had took, how bad I wanted it, the investment that I made. I didn't have freaking insurance, man. I had to pay for this surgery.
How'd you pay for it?
We took up donations. My parents helped me. Now this is really cool. Just a quick side note. This surgeon, Dr. Cooper, actually did his portion of the surgery for free.
Oh,
but
really?
He didn't tell us that until the surgery was over.
Dang.
He just
why did he do that?
I think because he knew I wanted to go serve my country.
It sounds like that same vein of he just saw something in you and was like,
that's
I
it,
believe
brother.
in this kid.
That's it, man.
It's interesting.
So, but we still had the hospital bills,
of course,
which
right, yeah, that's
stack up.
Yeah, you don't know. You're like, okay, the procedure is this much, and you think, well, that's it. No. That's that much for that part of the procedure or that individual. But then you have anesthesia, and you have the hospital stay, and you have this, and you have that, and that's completely separate.
Yeah, man. So we were able to get it paid for. Come back in. This guy, he reviews the case, and like I say, I think he really appreciated the just the tenacity that I had to achieve my goals.
Definitely.
And he sent it all the way up the chain of command, all the way to the top of the Navy. Like, it went out even outside of Naval Special Warfare community. And everybody got their hands on it. They actually wrote a whole article on it, a 4 or 5 page medical journal on my case specifically, because I was the only Naval Special Warfare candidate that had ever been diagnosed with a pericardial cyst.
Wow.
Had the operation and then returned and came back. So that's all out there online. If you just Google Navy SEAL pericardial cyst, you can read it if you're interested in medical.
Do you know if
stuff.
there's been other? I wonder if there's been other guys that have gone through now because you kind of paved that path a little bit.
You know, I don't know. No one's reached out to me.
Yeah.
So
I mean, maybe a different circumstance, and maybe it wasn't your exact thing, but they thought, well, okay, this guy went through and he had a successful career with us, and maybe we ought to revisit this.
Yeah, maybe so, man. But they blessed me off, man.
Yeah. That's what they have to do?
Yeah, they blessed me off, signed my paperwork, and so after this entire freaking process, and this is the thing right here. I'm writing about this right now.
Yeah.
If you can understand, if you're listening to this podcast right now, that tells me that you haven't given up.
Sure, of course.
If you're listening to this podcast, it tells me something about you. It tells me that you're setting aside time out of your day in order to hopefully learn something new that's going to improve you or your circumstance. So that tells me that you have not quit yet. If you have not quit, I want you to understand something. If you are not where you want to be, you are in the midst of a process that has been designed in order to make you form you or forge you into the person that you have been created to be. All right? And that's what this process was for me.
What do you mean by designed?
This process, now I'm a Christian, guys. All right? So I view everything from the lens of my creator. Like I believe that that God has created me for a specific purpose, to serve a specific purpose within the body of Christ. All right? Now that's the way I view it, right? So in other words, my creator has designed this process that I'm enduring in life, right, in order to forge me into the person that he created me to be.
So let me ask you, because I'm Christian as well, but let me ask you this. So, because you have a say in the matter too, right? If this is the process, you have a say whether or not you go this path or that path or whatever path you go down, right? That's
free will.
That's right. So is exercising your free will part of your design or not? Is the path that you will go down part of your will or not?
Okay.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do. Well, for me, when I'm enduring this process, right? This process that I've just kind of walked you guys through. This is just a portion of the process that I've endured up to this point. So for me, when I'm in the midst of that process, yes, I have that free will, right? I can quit at any time, or I can
Deviate.
intentionally deviate.
Right, you can do 1,000 different things.
But there was never a time for me that I didn't know in my heart what the actual process actually was.
I always felt it.
I always felt like I knew what the right direction was. All right? And for me, it's not, I wasn't even a Christian at that time. It was just a overwhelming desire to go in this specific direction, right? Almost like, woe is me if I don't go in this direction.
Man, I've felt that, and I felt. You say woe, the word that I've used, I think the feeling is probably very much the same, is shame on me.
Shame on me.
Like I felt something, and I'm like, shame on me if I don't do that. Even if I don't try it, shame on me for not doing that. What a slap in the face if I don't go forward with that.
You're right, brother. And you know, just to diverge just for a second on this whole free will conversation that we all have as human beings. Yes, you can diverge from that process and you can cheat yourself out of that process. Most of the time, the reason people cheat themselves out of the process and they never become the person that they were created to be, most of the time that's because they are not patient enough to endure the process, right? So patience is the main key in order to become the person that you were created to be. We talk about free will. If you want to ask me, Chad, you believe in God, why in the world would God give his creation free will? Why? Well, here's the thing, man. I feel like, look, I put things in simple terms. God created us as... And look, man, if you don't believe in God, I don't freaking care. I'm not trying to convince you of anything right now. Like, don't leave your comments to yourself, man. I'm not trying to convince you of anything.
I think most of the people, I'll say this. I mean, there's always going to be that, right? But I think most of the people who listen to this podcast are intelligent enough to say, or at least think, okay, well, I don't believe in God, but you know what? I can learn something from
the
this.
Principles
That's
of
what I'm
the
saying.
Bible work. Period.
That's what I'm saying.
All right. So free will, God created us for the same reason that we own dogs. The same reason you own dogs. Why do you own dogs? Why do I own dogs? Because I enjoy the companionship, right? God wanted companionship. Is essentially the reason he created us. He wanted to be in companionship with us. So if you feel like you're not fulfilling your purpose as a Christian, just get in companionship with God, man, and he's satisfied with you, you know? That's why he created you. Now, how much fun is it to have companionship with some creature that has no choice of whether they love you or not. If you created something to be your companion and you created it in a way that its only choice was to love you and do as you said, there's no fun. There's no more satisfaction in that.
To slavery or tyranny
that's
or dictatorship.
Exactly right, man.
Sure, of course.
So that's my explanation of free will. But yeah, back to the process. I had endured this process, right? They finally blessed me off. I get finally to just toe the line at a race called Buds, where 95% of people quit anyways.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I made it through all of Buds in one shot. Never failed a single evolution, was never rolled, was
That's got to be a very small percentage of people who actually do that. Because with the guys that I've talked with, mostly it comes down to injury and they get rolled back and they have to come back through 2-3 times, whatever it may be.
Does it come down to injury or does it come down to lack of preparation or lack of being deliberate?
I mean, I'm sure it's a combination.
Look at the root of it. The reason that I didn't get rolled because of injury, the reason that I didn't get rolled because of performance is because I was prepared and I was deliberate. See, everything falls back. If you get injured, it's likely because you didn't prepare your body physically or you weren't deliberate.
But how does that contrast with the first story you told me about being on this 100-miler and being prepared and knowing and still having the gut issues?
Yeah. Now there are certain cases in SEAL training without a doubt where the result changes because of something like the gut issue, something that's completely out of your control. But I can't tell you how many guys that I saw in SEAL training, probably the majority of people that get rolled or dropped from SEAL training, it wasn't because of something that was out of their control.
Right. It was an injury or an illness or whatever. But you're saying lack of preparation.
It was lack of preparation. It was not being deliberate with their actions, their movements.
Being loose, flippant, casual about it. What do you mean by that?
When you're on the obstacle course in Buds, they have a freaking tower. Mm-hmm. You have to climb up to the top platform of this tower, and they have a rope that comes down. It's called the slide for life.
Right.
Guys, get up there. Instead of taking a few breaths, let me think about how I'm gonna just approach this obstacle. Let me take a pregnant pause here. Right? They just get freaking in a hurry. They just get lackadaisical, and they end up falling off of this daggone rope and sand darting and shattering their pelvis. Right? Well, sand darting. What's the root cause of this? Right? Yeah, you can say, oh yeah, I fell off the slide for life and I got injured, or you can say, you know what, I should have practiced my patience. I should have stayed present. I should have been deliberate when I was up there because I knew that was a high-risk moment within this obstacle course, right? And I could have prevented that, okay? So I've always had there's a few specific influencers out there right now that brag on the fact that they've been through Hell Week 4 times. Why would you brag on that? That's just telling me you're a turd, man. Like... You had to go, it took you 4 times to make it through this training? Like, so you got a vacation. You got to go through it. Then you had a little vacation. Then you got to come back fresh, try to go through it again. Then you had to do another little break. Look, man, this is a whole nother, dude, I get fired up about this crap, right?
I can hear it.
But I had endured the process. I was prepared. I knew how to be patient. From a young age, patience was forged in me through hunting.
True. Good point.
Yeah. And so I had these elements that were forged in me at a young age, went through this process, got on the start line, went all the way through with no issues because I had patience and endured the process. If I would have, I'm telling you all this to tell you, if I would have went to SEAL training on the first try without enduring that process of the heart surgery, being told no, all this crap, I don't think I would have made it through SEAL training. I don't think I would have made it through.
Because you hadn't hardened yourself yet?
I wanted it, but I didn't want it bad enough.
Not yet.
Yeah. It was through the process of being told no that really that made me so freaking hungry to have this, man.
So do you think, it just goes back to, as we were talking about God earlier, do you think God said, and I'm not saying this like an arrogant way, so take it with a grain of salt, but do you think he said, "Oh yeah, let's see how bad you actually want it," and put those things in front of you?
No, I think that he knew that I wouldn't become a SEAL unless he walked me through that process, and I think that's why he took me through it. And I think he took me through it because, look, man, I'll be totally honest with you. I wasn't a SEAL. The purpose of me becoming a SEAL wasn't to do the things that I did on deployment. It was to I'm just now figuring out why I became a SEAL. I became a SEAL because now I can go places that other people can't go. I can go places and share my testimony and share the gospel that other people can't go because I have that title, right? It's given me this credibility as a Christian, sure. As a servant of God. He took me, he allowed me to become that because he knew what he wanted me to do later on when I finally did get in companionship with him. I know this is deep stuff, guys. I'm just telling you.
Great stuff.
You look back on, I can now look back on it. I have some perspective. Now, in the midst of that journey, when I did become a SEAL, I thought, well, the only reason I'm a SEAL is to defend my country and to freaking do cool stuff and kill people. I mean, I thought that was the only purpose of it. I had no clue I would be sitting here with freaking Ryan Mickler on the Order of Man podcast. I didn't know what Instagram was until a year and a half ago. I didn't know any of this stuff was coming, man. I didn't know that this was God's purpose for my life. I mean, I really feel like I'm fulfilling his purpose. I feel like I have now become who I was truly created to be, at least in this season, right?
Do you have any sort of conflict in your mind about your role as a SEAL and the work that you did and your faith?
You know, I that's never been conflicting for me, and you know, I'll back it up with the gospel. The gospel or the Bible tells us that love always protects. Love always protects. So it's extremely easy for me to switch into a mindset or a mode where I am capable of extreme violence against evil in order to protect the things that I love.
Do you ever have to Sorry, I've got so many questions.
Good, bro.
Do you ever have to rein that in, like that capability of going to that place? Does that ever seep through in an inappropriate way for you?
All the time.
How do you deal with that?
It seems I have men and women around me that keep me in check. Right? So I'm like, dude, I'm like a pit bull, man. And if you want to get the job done, take me off the leash, right? When crap gets rough, I live by a mantra: be hard when it gets hard. When it gets hard, man, cut me off the leash. I'm going full bore. My little brother the other day on the podcast, he described me. When we were kids, we used to tie these little bugs that we have in the South. They're called June bugs,
right?
Or Japanese beetles, right? When we were kids, we used to tie little strings to their legs and we would fly them around, right? And they were just getting it, you know, and trying to get away. And Blake's like, yeah, Blake, my little brother, and a few other men and women are like the ones that hold that string, and I'm the June bug that's out there, or like the dude that's holding the leash on the pit bull, you know? So they rein me in, man. And even on my podcast, you know, there's a lot of times that I want to get on and I want to satisfy my own emotions and my own feelings about things that are going on in our country right now, social, political, moral, ethical issues, right? And I want to get on, and my go-to is just a freaking hammer, dude.
Sure.
It's just to drop the hammer. Sometimes that's not appropriate, right?
Right.
And I have those people around me. I've released a podcast episode before, and my brother approached me a few hours later and be like, "Hey, man, you need to freaking take that down, man.
Really?
Like you need to come at that topic from a more." And I know this sounds, but whatever. Take it how you want. From a more loving and understanding perspective, right? Because the way you came at it, it's going to resonate with some people, But some people, it's just going to turn them off. Now, I'm not saying I'm trying to make everybody happy, right? But everything that I say needs to be, I need to be able to back it up scripturally. I think that the Bible is the ultimate authority. And I can get outside the parameters of that ultimate authority a lot of times when I lean on my own emotions and my own feelings about whatever's going on. So I do have people around me that will rein me in, man.
Yeah, that's good. I can certainly appreciate and understand where you're coming from, because I tend to be somebody who sees things pretty clearly. At least I can see it clearly. Other people might think he's not thinking clearly.
Yeah.
But I see it as clear as day.
Oh, yeah, man.
And then I share it, and I'm so black and white that I end up, in a lot of instances, leaving a wake of collateral damage in my path because I shared it as black, as the way I saw it in my mind. And again, it's not to appease people. It's not to make them feel comfortable. It's just there's opportunities for us to share an important message, whether it's a message of Christianity or a message of being a better man or whatever the message is, if you do it in a way that people can receive it.
There you go. There you go. I mean, yeah, you're pretty much wasting your breath if you're not. I mean,
but this is where that like 0Fs mentality and like, I don't care what anybody else thinks. I'm like, bro, like I understand, but like
you know so that's the that's the biggest message out there right now, right?
Yeah.
Stay hard, right?
Yeah.
That's the biggest message that's out there right now. You know why that message resonates with so many people? Because it appeals to reliance on self. It appeals to your humanistic desire to rely upon yourself, right? You know, if you think that you can just build this wall between you and the world around you, and that you can become untouchable, and that you can just be hard all the time, and that nothing can hurt you, if you do that, go ahead, do it. Go ahead. You're going to be freaking miserable, man.
Yeah.
And you are eventually going to collapse. The collapse is coming, right? If you think you can do that, you know what you're doing when you do that? You're not only appealing to your humanistic side, dependence on self, but you know, you're not only appealing to that, but I lost my train of thought. Anyways, yeah, it's not sustainable. It's not sustainable. All right. You're thinking like an individual.
right.
That's what you're doing. You're thinking like an individual. And the people that are propagating these messages are individuals. They were individuals in their former lives, and they're individualistic now. You go ahead. Continue to think like an individual, and life will continue to drag your freaking dick through the dirt, son. As long as you keep that mindset, you're going to keep getting drugged through the freaking mud, and you can act like you like it all you want. Act like you like it all you want. I know the freaking truth. You know how I know the truth? I'm gonna look at other aspects of you. I'm gonna look at, what is your family life like?
Yeah.
What is your marriage like?
By their fruits ye shall know thee.
Well, yeah. What is your language like? What, you know? I'm not, you know, it's simple for me. You can tell me how much you like it all day long, and I'm going to say, what are the fruits that are being produced out of this lifestyle? It's unsustainable. It's freaking ridiculous.
You know, the other thing too that I've and I think this has just come with a level of maturity and introspection is I just, it's better with other people. You know, it's better when you're serving other people. I'm saying life is better. It's better when you have something that you can offer that's valuable, that will help somebody who's going through a difficult time or has a challenge or wants to overcome or wants to improve their life. And you get to be a valuable resource in that individual's life because you're not driven by ego. You're driven more through humility and learning and being gracious. It's just better.
It's better. Life is better. You're exactly right, man. Life is better, and it's definitely more sustainable, and you are actually stronger. When you think like an individual, and you think that I'm just going to build this wall between me and anybody else, and I'm going to rely on self, you know, you're limiting your capacity to what is within you. Well, I have the combined strength, knowledge, and input of 3 or 4 men within and women within my inner circle. I have that combined strength and input. These people are surrounding me, pouring into me as I pour back into them, and it's a combined strength.
Right.
A cord of 3 strands is not easily broken, right? This is simple freaking crap, man. But people will believe in anything that appeals to self. That's us as humans.
Yeah.
We want to feel like we're in control, right? Whereas in reality, you are pretty weak and fallible. I don't care what kind of wall you put up. You are pretty weak and fallible, especially when you're trying to stand alone. You're very vulnerable. And you know, a lot of people that put up that wall are also stuck in that victim mindset, right? Here's the thing. If you think everything in the world is against you and you're having to put up this wall, that just tells me that you think you're a freaking victim, man.
Right.
You know what I mean? No, dude. Life is life, man. You're not a freaking victim, man. You know? The victim mindset propagates that reliance on self.
Yeah, and it's, well, yeah, also the victim mindset is contingent upon reliance on others too, though. And what I mean by that is if you think you're a victim or you're owed something, then it's somebody else's responsibility to fix your life, to do things for you that you should be doing yourself because somebody took advantage of you or exploited you or whatever. And so now you're waiting for somebody else to do things you should be doing for yourself. Yeah.
I mean, you do have victims that do that, right? But then you have the other type, which what we were talking about. You have the other type of victim that thinks everything has been unfair, so they just build a wall between themselves and everyone else.
Right. They shut down.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually see this a lot, even in the men's movement. You know, guys who think society is just out to get them and women are the devil and everything else. And so they shut themselves off and they look at anybody and everybody else as the enemy. And it's like, man, that's not productive. Like in the space in which I work, that's like the equivalent, the male equivalent of, you know, third wave feminism, which is society hates everybody. We're on our own. Everybody else and anything that threatens this is the enemy of us. And I haven't found that to be true.
No. And let me address that real quick. Man, this is a overwhelmingly large men's audience. If you are not taking input from your women, the women that are in your life, and if you're not allowing them to lead in places that they're designed to lead in, you are cheating yourself because these women are so freaking strong and in a lot of cases smart on so many levels. You are cheating yourself, your family, or your team out of some significant advancement, right? I train people out in the wilderness. That's what we do. And I would say just about, 30 to 40% of the men I train start out as pussies. I've never had a woman that acted that way. They are 100% squared away. 100% of the women that I have trained have been squared away.
Do you think that's because of the nature of men and women, or do you think that's because the nature of the women who would actually be interested in what you're doing?
I've thought about that. I don't know. I don't know. You know, maybe it is because the women that do come...
It's like a filtering process.
Yeah, the women that do have the courage to apply, because the way that we run our training events is you have to send me an email with your 5 W's. I get hundreds of these applications. I review each application.
You go through them all.
And I select 8 team members to come out on this mission that we call the basic course. We do one a month. So it's a very intimate process, and I don't tell these people anything about the mission. There's no website. There is no click here to register. Here's what it's about. This is what's day 1, day 2, day 3. No, there's none of that. It's literally send me your application. this is, and if I select you, this is where you need to be. This is what you need to have. This is when we will be finished. And that's all you get, man.
Wow. Yeah. How many people, like what's your completion or your success rate with a weekend like that on average? Is it a weekend?
It's the basic course, which is the product we're talking about, or the experience we're talking about. The basic course is 3 days, 2 nights in the wilderness.
Right. You're out in the wilderness the entire time.
The entire time. Cool. Yeah. So we're teaching. This course of instruction has everything from the hard skills, shelter, filtering water, a little bit of survival stuff, a little bit of bushcraft stuff, but all the way through it has instilled in it, which is for me the more important principles than the hard skills, which is leadership, teamwork, in a real sense, right? I mean, we when we go out there, and I don't want to give too much away about the mission, but when we go out there, the first day, I'm your instructor. The second day, I'm your lane grader, right? So you get a lot put on you in a short amount of time within a group of strangers. And if you don't get, again, out of that individualistic mindset, if you don't start functioning as a team, applying these skills and principles that we teach, both hard skills and mindset skills, you will be hurting, son.
And you'll hurt other people.
Oh, yeah. The whole team will suffer. The whole team will suffer. So, we've had, I think we've only had one person that we had to extract. We've had a few people that have called for extract, and we didn't allow it to happen.
You're not doing it.
Yeah. So
the goal is to get people through. I mean, that's.
Oh yeah,
that's
yeah.
the goal.
This is not a go out and beat you down.
Right.
This is developing you not only as a woodsman, an outdoorsman or woman. This is also developing you as a human being, as a father, a husband, a wife, a business owner. Those are the more valuable aspects of the trip, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, the odds of you having to survive out in the wilderness are significantly less than having to communicate effectively with your children.
Exactly, man. Right. I mean, I'll show you how to set a freaking snare, but I mean, that's a what do they call it? Like a nostalgic thing. That's
it's
all
just like,
it is.
I can do it cool. Like, when are you ever going to use that? Yeah, you might, but you're going to have a conversation with your kids tonight. You're going to try to sell a client on why they should work with you.
If you're out setting snares, a lot of stuff is went wrong, and you've ran out of ammo and everything else. You know what I mean?
That's right.
So it's a real blessing, and of course we tie the spiritual aspects of life into everything. When you get people out in a wilderness environment, where essentially no one's coming to get you. Mm-hmm. We are deep in the backcountry.
Yeah.
And you can't quit. You can't quit.
Yeah.
Period. And it also strips everything away. I don't care, man. We've had people out there that are millionaires. We've had people out there that work construction. We've had all types. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter how many freaking followers you have on Instagram. It doesn't matter how big your business is. You get out there with me, and all that crap gets stripped away.
Yeah.
Everything. It gets stripped away by the mountain.
Right.
I don't have to strip it from you. The mountain will take it all from you. Yeah. And then you start off from the base. There's no cell phone service. There's no outside input. It's you and your team, and that's it. And again, I think larger companies can't. There's nothing. We set the standard for this. One, because it is the best, in my opinion, the best training. This type of training, it is the best that's ever been created, because I take it so seriously. I'm a master training specialist. I was a SEAL instructor for about 3 or 4 years. So I'm an instructor trained. I take it very seriously. But we also set the standard because there's nobody else freaking doing it.
Right.
I mean, you can go to an Outward Bound trip or something and go on a backpacking trip and sit around a fire and sing Kumbaya with some freaking 19-year-old hippies that are your instructors. That's not what we do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's a blessing, man.
Yeah, that's the cool thing about an organization like yours, is you have the flexibility and the ability to move and create without having to worry about the huge ship that you've got to turn if things aren't right.
Oh, man, you're right.
Like you talked about earlier, the liability issues that come with it, but then also the marketability issues. like, how do we market this, right?
We don't market.
And that's what I'm saying. That's part of advantage.
Yeah.
Because you don't have to make this video that goes viral and everybody
100%,
will see
man.
it.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. I think the only, if you want to say that the disadvantage of it is it's not scalable.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I have visions of training up an instructor cadre at some point that could run a separate course that I would not have to attend, or maybe not have to be there the whole time. And we're trying to work our way out of that. I think that's the biggest struggle that I'm having right now as a business owner, is that a lot of the business that we do is based on my personality, and that's not a sustainable business model. We can scale our price, but I don't want to scale the price to the point that a fireman or a police officer or a school teacher can't come to my course, because those are the people I want to train.
Right, exactly.
They're the ones that are freaking out in the mix, man. So...
and the other thing...
We're just getting started, man.
Yeah, and you guys are going to do great. But, the other part of this scalability issue that you're talking about is if you don't learn how to scale and you immerse yourself and you are the quote-unquote personality, and that's all there is, it doesn't allow... And I've done it before, and I've been there, and I found that it just doesn't allow me to pursue things that I want to pursue outside of this specific lane.
Mm-hmm.
Like take Order Man, for example. If it's all built around me, nobody else, just me, and nobody else is involved, nobody's helping, nobody's supporting, I can't go play with my kids. I can't build a canoe with them. I can't go on vacation. I can't hunt during hunting season. I can't do these other things that are important and meaningful to me because I'm so heavily invested in this thing. And I know it works. I have people in my life, people that you know too, that this is what they do. And if it works, great. But I'm telling you, if you want a broader, wider perspective of life, then that learning how to step back and scale to a degree or to bring others in is that's something I'm learning myself right now. That's something I'm dealing with as well.
Yeah. And I think what stops a lot of people from doing that is pride. I think a lot of people want the attention, right?
Yeah, it feels good.
They want, I don't want it. I mean, I really don't. I mean, it's like, if I didn't, to be honest with you, Ryan, if I didn't think that I had something to share that would change the lives of at least a few people that listen to this podcast right now, I wouldn't have came and did this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I believe so much in my experiences, and I believe so much that they will help other people. That's the reason that I come and do this. That's what drives me, right? That in my faith.
It sounds like, going back to what you said earlier, it sounds like we're getting into that, woe is me if I don't do this.
That's
type
it,
thing.
man. That's it. I mean, I live on a freaking 500-acre ranch in North Georgia, man.
Yeah.
I don't want to leave.
You don't need to come up to Maine.
I don't ever want to leave home. Now, that's not to say that it's not an honor to be here with you.
I don't take it that way.
It is
for
an
sure.
honor to be here. I'm just telling you, I'm driven not by pride and attention. I'm driven because I genuinely freaking care. And I know the things that we talk about here today are not theoretical. The things that we talk about here today, like the first thing we talked about, living to a standard and letting the results fall where they may, those things are not theoretical. Everything that I will talk about, I teach from actual experience, man. And they work. You know what I mean? So pride, I think, holds a lot of people up, man. And then I think lack of leadership, man. I think a big part of leadership, and there's a couple aspects that I believe in revolving around leadership, but a big part of it is being able to lead and be led, right? So empowering people around you that you can trust in order to take ownership of whatever you've put them in charge of, right? And if you don't learn how to lead and be led, then you are going to be limited to, me. I would be limited to me.
That's it. And you can't serve as many people doing that.
No. My co-instructors, my little brother, my business partner, and my co-instructor, Nathan Hicks, I mean, those guys know they have complete authority and freedom of movement within anything that we do. And, that's a leadership skill, turning that over. And
has that been hard for you at points in your life where it's like, I'm not going to let this part go? Or have you run across issues where you give them free rein and it doesn't go the way that you want it to?
I think that I don't, the guys and girls that I do that do receive that ownership and authority over aspects of a business or an experience, they're the right people.
Right.
I know they're the right people. So they haven't failed me. You know, and have I run into aspects where it's hard to give that away? To be totally honest with you, not that I can think of, because I don't want it. I truly, I am focused. I'm mission focused. I'm not CHADD focused. You know what I mean? So if it furthers the mission, CHADD doesn't freaking matter.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's so cool to me when we first started running these missions, the basic course, you know, everybody that'd come out, they wanted a picture with CHADD. They wanted everybody at the end of the mission, CHADD, let me get a picture with you, this, that. Now it's, hey, can we get a picture with our instructors?
Which is cool.
I see that shift, and I'm like, yes, man, this is what I want. This is what we're working toward here. You know?
I think about that a lot with what we're doing is, you know, I never want this to be a position where people feel like they have to be part of this in order to get everything they need for the rest of their life. You know, it's like, you should outgrow me at some point. Yeah. You know, like at some point, maybe you've outgrown listening to me, or maybe you don't need to come to every single event because you've been to every one we've done, and it's time for you to go do your own events and start your own movement, whether it's in this space or another space or whatever. Like, we should be outgrowing each other and then finding new tribes and new places to belong. But I just don't want people to feel like dependent on me to get what they need. I want them to be able to create it for themselves and use this as a footstool or a catalyst for being able to do that.
I love that, brother. I mean, that's the way, that is the only way to make a broad impact. And look, man, if people would just design their business around the way Jesus designed his command structure on earth, right? He had his 12 dudes that he poured into, right? And then he sent them out. He sent them out, man. And they went out and impacted all these communities. And that's the way it has to work, right? And we've designed our whole brand, 3 of 7 project, around the biblical model. I mean, everybody that listens to my podcast, I view them as part of the body of 3 of 7 project, just as Jesus views all of us as his body, right? So if you listen to our podcast, if you come to one of our missions, if you have input, like you're almost a part owner in it. Like you know, you are going to drive the experiences, you're going to drive the content because it's yours. It's all of ours. Right. You know what I mean? It's a beautiful business model. You know,
can you explain the 3 of 7 concept?
Yeah. I know it's a funny name. The 3 is representative of body, soul, and spirit. 7 is the biblical number for completion. So essentially, I believe that if you master, nourish, and maintain both your body, your soul, which is your mind, your will, and your emotions, and your spirit, which is your connection to your higher power or God, that is basically the only way to achieve a complete, wholesome, sustainable life here on earth. If you let one of those aspects of you, if you let one of them just kind of slide to the wayside, right? So I don't care how fit you are and maybe how emotionally strong you are. If you don't have any spiritual connection with your Creator, you're never going to feel complete. Likewise, if you're a pastor of a church, but you're 300 freaking pounds, I'm not going to listen to you.
Yeah,
you're not. I'm sorry. I'm not judging you. I just cannot buy into the fact that you are living a complete and wholesome lifestyle. So, you know, those are things I take into account when I reflect upon myself as I move through my day. What am I doing every day to master, nourish, and maintain my body, physical body, my soul, which is my mind, will, and emotions, and then also my spirit? I got to hit all 3 of those, right? And I got to keep them in check.
And that, I mean, I can tell you just from the limited personal interaction you and I have had, like this morning, you're like, okay, I'm going to go. Well, last night, I'm like, hey, should we go train jujitsu? You're like, yeah, I mean, I got to do something. So yeah, we're something every single day. So we're going to go train tonight. And then this morning, you're like, hey, I'm going to go for a quick run and I'm going to read my Bible.
Yeah.
That's what you said before you left.
Yep.
And so I see, like, you're checking these things off the box, not just going through the motions, but making sure that you're getting these behaviors in on a daily basis.
Yeah. And we are sharpening the soul aspect of ourselves right now.
Sure.
That soul, that mindset, that will. What do we want to do? What do we want out of life? The emotional side of us. How do we feel about certain things, and how do we allow how do we train our emotions to serve us, but not lead us, right? Emotions are beautiful, wonderful servants. They make us who we are, right? I mean, I have men and women all the time out on my missions that, man, they're just bawling their eyes out, and I'm like, that's great, man. It's time. This is an appropriate time to allow those emotions to come to the surface. But when you're in the midst of battle, on the battlefield of life, metaphorically, those emotions should not be leading you. Your logic, your training, your understanding should be leading you in those moments.
So glad you said that. I remember a very small, specific example. I coached youth sports for a long time. I haven't for a little bit. I need to get back into it. But I was coaching baseball, and one of our players got hit in the back with a fastball. I mean, just right in the back. And clearly he wasn't injured. Yeah, it stung, but clearly he wasn't injured. And I remember him running to first base, and I was the first base coach at the time. And I said, how did that feel? And he's like, that hurts. And he was crying. And I said, do you think now's the right time to cry? He's like, I don't know. I'm like, well, what are we doing? He's like, we're playing baseball. And what is your job to get to second? I said, do you think right now is the appropriate time to cry? And he's like, no, I got to get to second.
You're in the game, man.
And he stole second base, and he looked back at me. He still had a little twinkle in his eye, but he looked back at me, and man, he was so proud because he didn't let that part of it get to him to the point where he couldn't function the way that he needed to and contribute and be part of the team in a meaningful way.
I'm so glad you did that, Ryan. And, this is, for me in the SEAL teams, I can't tell you, how many, times that, we were in a hairy situation, stressful situation, whatever it may be. And, you see guys, even SEALs, just submit to those emotions. And I've done it before. Of
course.
It's
hard.
Yeah, it is. And you're running around like a chicken with your head cut off, and you're not getting anything accomplished. And then you look over in the corner, and there's your chief or your LPO, and they're sitting there on comms, talking in a nice, calm, clear, concise voice.
Yeah.
And they're actually making progress because they're not being led by emotion, So the dynamic is clear to me.
Right. And then there's a time to come back and decompress and do what you have to do and let it out or whatever it is you have to do.
Man.
Sure, there's a time that's appropriate. And
that's where they can serve you.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That's right, man.
Well, brother, I think the power is telling us we better wrap this thing up because it's flickering again.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
And that's also we're gonna have some killer lobster today.
Dude, I can't wait, brother. I mean, I'm surrounded by all this Jocko discipline. I feel like I should go trim my beard or something.
Yeah,
man. I mean, get a haircut.
I wouldn't do that. I trimmed. I told you I trimmed my beard. It was not as long as yours, but I did that last year, and I immediately regretted it when I did it.
Yeah,
and now I actually like it.
Yeah,
but it took a while. Yeah. So I'm not telling you to make any rash decisions. In fact, I got a friend. His name is Eric Banholtz. He has a rule of thumb. He says, how does it go? For every month that you've had your beard, you need to wait at least that many days before you contemplate getting rid of it. Mm-hmm. So you've had it for 24 months, right? Roughly a couple years. So you need to wait about 24 days from the time you're thinking about cutting it to actually executing on that. That's his rule of thumb. I don't know if it's true or what, but that is his rule of thumb.
That's funny, dude. That's
all right, funny, brother. Well, I appreciate you. I'm glad you're here. You're staying with me, and man, I just love having guys like you over and seeing you interact with my kids, and it's good for them, of course, and interacting with my wife. We're gonna break bread today. But man, I've been inspired by what you do, which is why I invited you to come, and I'm really, really glad that you did.
Well, I'm
Thanks for being here,
pumped,
man.
brother. No, I appreciate you having me, guys, or Ryan and everybody that listens to this. I mean, we just barely got to scratch the surface on some of the spiritual stuff and this and that. So, I mean, if you're interested in that, just understand, be confident about your beliefs. Be confident about your moral and ethical principles. Be confident, man. Believing in creation is actually freaking common sense. We could do a whole podcast on that. But if you want to learn more, go check us out. 307 Podcast or 307project.com.
Right on.
Is where you guys can go. So thank you so much for trusting me to share with your men and your tribe, man. I really, really take it seriously, and it is an extreme honor. So thank you, brother.
Awesome. We're going to sync it all up so you guys know where to go, but follow CHADD, connect with me. Thanks again, brother. Appreciate it.